the Exodus from Zoran Neil-Hurston's Man of the Mountain, Moses' Man of the Mountain. After the last plague had ended, every house in Egypt was bloody. Blood was outside every door in Goshen, where the Hebrews lived. Blood was inside every other house in Egypt. The Pharaoh looked upon his firstborn and he wept. His son was dead, and the son of his son was dead, and in his own blood. The people lamented and cried. With the sunrise, the princes and the people said, "This is the right hand of Moses doing this." They lifted their dead from their beds and they said in awe, "Moses and the God of the Israelites." They rolled their dead from the straw mats and pallets and said, "Moses and his right hand." They crowded in and around the palace and they shouted, "Get Moses and the Hebrews out of Egypt! If you don't, everybody will be dead!" So the Pharaoh sent for Moses to dismiss him and his God and his people from Egypt. Pharaoh sent his messengers to Moses, telling him not that the Hebrews might leave now, but that they must go. Moses heard the message while sitting in his house, and he didn't say a word right then. The news was too big to speak at once. He had to sit with his feelings for a while. Afterwards, he called his leaders to him, and he told them, "Your slavery is over. Pharaoh is broken at last. We march out of Egypt a freeing people. We march out with a high hand." The people cried when Moses told them. He had expected wild plans with the sound of cymbals and exultant singing and dancing, but the people wept out of their eyes. Goshen was very still, no songs and no shouting. Then some people began to be able to say something. They said, free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. No more toting and mixing mortar, no more taking rocks and building things for old Pharaoh. No more whipping and bloody backs, no more slaving from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. Free, free! But Moses put a stop to all that. He said, you won't be free long if you keep that up. Stop that shouting and stop just sitting around. Get everything together and let's go, and that quick. Why, Moses, some of them started to ask. We're free now and we can't even take our own time about everything? You people have been around Pharaoh all this time. You don't know him no better than that. He's scared today, and so he says you can go. But tomorrow, or the next day, he will realize what he's losing and send his army right here to Goshen and put you back to work. Grab up your things right now. Tonight, we'll leave Egypt forever. Good gracious, somebody grumbled. I was figuring on going fishing tomorrow morning, and I don't want to be no bother with no packing today. It's too much like work, and I just got free this morning. That's the heaven's truth, too, plenty of others chimed in. Looks like we done swapped one boss man for another one. I don't want nobody giving me no orders anymore. But it was Moses that got us free, Joshua told them. If it hadn't been for him, we'd be hauling rocks right this minute. So while some of them held their doubts, they began to prepare to leave. And gradually they got the spirit into them, so that everywhere in Goshen people were saying, tonight. Everybody said it with their own thoughts and feelings. Some talked it at the edge of their lips. Some rolled it deep in their throats. Tonight. Some throbbed it inside their hearts and let their bodies move in rhythm and said, tonight, tonight, tonight. Some said it with a gleam in their eyes, with future seemingly blazes, daisies, and said, tonight. Some said it with a question, tonight? They fixed and did around and got ready. Nothing was still. Children were hunting bitter herbs, men slaughtered geese and tied bundles, women mixed their dough and they cooked, and all the time everybody thought back over all the years and believed, tonight. Finally the sun set, and they set out. Which way, Moses? Aaron asked. By the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the soft murmur of sandals and bare feet kept up in the night without a moon, and Moses and his host moved on. Aaron and Nun began to talk to each other. On our way at last, Aaron said. After 430 years to the day, said Nun. It seems like it ain't so to me, Aaron. But there's one thing I'm sorry about. What's that, Nun? I can't imagine any sorrows connected with this thing. I sure hate to miss those Egyptians doing all that work that we used to do in the hot sun. Gee, I hadn't thought of that none, but it sure would be a lovely sight. Oh man, I never want to see a brick again, not even a brick house to live in. Me neither. Now where are we gonna go now? Out, none, out! I don't mean that. I mean, just exactly where we're gonna live permanent when we get out. Well, Moses may know, but he ain't told nobody yet. You that gonna be all right to ask him? I guess so. You can ask him if you want. Where did he go? He was just ahead of us. And then they looked up and they became conscious of a changed rhythm in all the multitudes around them, and it was sort of a spontaneous mass halt. And immediately they saw what it was that made everybody stop.